Africa is shaking the world right now. France is being kicked out. The West is panicking. Terror groups are losing their grip. And at the heart of it all stands a 36-year-old soldier from Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. This is not just about Burkina Faso. This is about the new scramble for Africa, a battle of empires, corporations, and powers trying to control Africa's future. But Traoré is not playing by the old rules. He is rewriting them. And today, we break down how Traoré is defying France, fighting terror, and redefining African independence step by step, move by move. Stay locked in, because by the end of this video you'll understand why Ibrahim Traoré has become the most feared and respected African leader of the decade. Who is Ibrahim Traoré? The youngest leader in the world. Let's start with the basics. In September 2022, Ibrahim Traoré, just 34 years old, stormed onto the global stage by leading a military coup in Burkina Faso. He became the world's youngest head of state. But unlike other coup leaders who rise for greed or power, Traoré presented himself as something else, a continuation of Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary who once called Burkina Faso the land of upright people. Traoré didn't wear expensive suits. He wore fatigues. He didn't speak in polished Western diplomatic codes. He spoke raw, fiery, Pan-African truth. And he made one thing clear: Burkina Faso will no longer be a colony. The colonial ghost, France's deep grip on Burkina Faso. To understand Traoré's fight, you need to understand the enemy, French neocolonialism. For decades, France kept its hand inside Africa's pocket. Controlling currency through the CFA franc. Controlling resources: gold, uranium, cotton. Controlling military power with bases, advisors, and interventions. Burkina Faso, despite being rich in gold, the country exports billions worth every year, remains one of the poorest nations on earth. Why? Because the wealth doesn't stay in Ouagadougou. It flies straight to Paris. And every time a leader dared to resist, they were punished. Thomas Sankara was assassinated in 1987, widely believed to be with French backing. For decades after, compliant presidents kept Burkina Faso in line. But Traoré? He tore up the script. The break with France, a bold revolution. One of Traoré's first moves was kicking French troops out. France claimed it was in Burkina Faso to fight terrorism. Yet terrorism only got worse. Villages were massacred. Millions displaced. The French military seemed more interested in protecting mining sites than protecting people. So Traoré said, enough. He gave France 1 month to leave. By February 2023, French troops were out. And the people? They celebrated. Burkina Faso erupted in cheers, waving Russian and Burkinabe flags, burning French ones. This was more than military strategy. It was psychological liberation. For the first time in decades, Burkina Faso was acting as a sovereign nation. The security war, terror, drones, and survival. But liberation came with a price. Burkina Faso sits in the middle of the Sahel war zone. Groups linked to Al-Qaeda, JNIM, and ISIS, Sahel, run cross-border terror campaigns. They don't just fight soldiers, they slaughter civilians, raid villages, enslave women, and control smuggling routes. Between April and July 2025 alone, nearly 2,900 people were killed in Burkina Faso and neighboring states. Traoré knew he couldn't win this war with French support because France benefited from instability. Instead, he turned elsewhere. He secured drones, weapons, and training from Russia and other allies. He built alliances with Mali and Niger, forming the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, a security bloc rejecting French control. He launched People's Defense Brigades, arming citizens to defend their villages. For the first time in years, the momentum began to shift. Terror groups were being hunted, not tolerated. The global chessboard, West vs East. Here's where it gets global. Traoré is not just fighting terrorists. He's sitting at the table of world power competition. France and the EU want their resources: uranium, gold, and cotton. The US wants security dominance in the Sahel. Russia offers weapons and political backing. China offers infrastructure, investment, and loans. Traoré has leveraged this brilliantly. He is not surrendering Burkina Faso to one master. Instead, he's playing powers against each other, demanding respect on Burkina Faso's terms. That's why the West fears him. A young African leader refusing to be a puppet is dangerous. Dangerous not because of violence, but because of the idea he represents: African independence is possible. The Green Revolution, Traoré's nation building. Security is one side of the battle. But Traoré knows guns alone cannot build a nation. That's why he's pushing food self-sufficiency. He declared a green revolution inspired directly by Thomas Sankara. Farmers are being supported with seeds, equipment, and irrigation. Youth are being mobilized for agriculture, not just the military. Burkina Faso is working to end dependence on imported food. This is survival economics. Burkina Faso has been strangled by sanctions and resource theft. If the country can feed itself, it cannot be starved into submission. Why the West fears Traoré: assassinations, sanctions, and propaganda. Whenever an African leader rises against the system, the same playbook is used. 1. Smear campaigns. Western media labels them dictators, authoritarian, Russian puppets. 2. Sanctions. Cut them off from trade, aid, and financial systems. 3. Assassination attempts. Eliminate them if they refuse to bend. Traoré has faced multiple assassination attempts already. He openly admitted this in speeches, saying, "They will try to kill me like they killed Sankara." And yes, sanctions are already hitting Burkina Faso. The EU suspended aid. The World Bank froze funds. France cut military and economic ties. But here's the twist: it's not working. Instead of isolating Traoré, it's making him a pan-African hero. Across Africa, young people see him as the new Sankara, the one leader bold enough to defy France in broad daylight. Burkina Faso as a symbol, the new Africa rising. This is bigger than one man. Ibrahim Traoré has turned Burkina Faso, a small, poor, landlocked country, into the symbol of Africa's resistance. In Mali, Niger, and Guinea, leaders are echoing his defiance. Across Africa, social media is flooded with Traoré speeches, Sankara quotes, and calls for sovereignty. The African Union, once quiet and submissive, is now under pressure to choose a side in this new global realignment. What Traoré represents is the end of fear. For decades, African leaders were afraid of France, afraid of coups, afraid of assassinations. Traoré is proving that fear can be broken. The new scramble for Africa, Traoré's role. We are living through a new scramble for Africa. But unlike the 19th century, where Africa was carved up by European empires, today the contest is between old powers, France, EU, US. Rising powers, Russia, China, Turkey, Gulf states. African resistance movements led by leaders like Traoré. Burkina Faso is not the biggest piece on the chessboard. But it is the loudest voice. And sometimes, a small country can ignite a continent-wide fire. Just like Sankara inspired Africa in the 1980s, Traoré is inspiring a new generation in the 2020s. Conclusion: the legacy being written now. Ibrahim Traoré is not just a soldier. He is not just a coup leader. He is the front line of Africa's rebellion against neocolonialism. He kicked France out. He stood against terrorists. He built alliances. He launched a green revolution. And he did it all before his 37th birthday. The question is not whether Traoré will survive. He faces enormous risks, from assassination plots to economic sabotage. The question is, has he already sparked an irreversible revolution in Africa?